What's up, y'all? This is the Relationships and Chill podcast, and in today's episode number 28, getting over past relationship failures. We're going to be talking about what you can learn from past quote-unquote failures, what you can take out of them moving forward into the future so that you don't repeat the same cycles and habits again and again and again. So please make sure you stay tuned to the very end where I got a very special announcement. Stay tuned. Peace.
You're listening to Relationships and Chill, the podcast for singles and couples about how to find and cultivate the relationship you've always dreamed of, based on trust and honest communication. Why waste your time going through the typical dating obstacle course, only to end up with drama, jealousy, and heartbreak, when you can find the love of your life and live happily ever after? So sit back, chill, and get ready to make relationships great again.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings. Welcome to another edition of the Relationships and Chill podcast. And I am your gracious host, Coach R. Anthony. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about getting over past relationship failures. I hope you guys enjoyed your holiday weekend. Thursday, Friday, Black Friday, and then today is Cyber Monday. I hope you guys enjoyed spending all that moolah, and I hope you don't feel like a failure because of that. But anyway, I think this is a very important subject to talk about because, I run across a lot of people who tend to repeat the same issues that they're running into, and I've kind of noticed a pattern as it relates to people when it comes to moving forward into just in life in general, but specifically in relationships, just moving forward in relationships. They tend to take on the things that they have experienced before. They tend to take on the encapsulation of the things that they've experienced before. So it may not necessarily be that they remember or are repeating the same exact cycle or the same exact experience in relationships, but it could be just those parts that were encapsulated. Like you may notice if a woman has been in an abusive relationships, she has a greater likelihood of being in that the next relationship is an abusive relationship. But what about her is drawing these abusive men to her? What about her as opposed to another woman who has never been in an abusive relationship? She's never had those types of altercations. And you have another woman who, who just, runs into the same issues over and over in her own specific relationships. Not that she runs into the same problems as the other two examples of women, but she runs into her own issues. And men too. Men, we have... I know for me, I think, and I hate to keep, whenever I'm talking about me, it may sound like I'm kind of unique and special or different or whatever, and I don't think that's the case per se. I think what it is like my perspective on dating started a very long time ago. Specifically when I was really a lot younger, I could not talk to women at all. I was like so shy. I couldn't walk up to them and say anything. Now, if they were in like a class or something that I took, I could talk to them about, goofy stuff or stuff relating to class. But if there was nothing kind of to adapt myself to, then it was just straight up me, then yeah, I wouldn't say anything. I would just like keep it moving. And that really went with me for a very long time. And I don't know why specifically. I know specifically why my mentality, but I don't know why, later on in life, I still kind of had the same thing. I think it was just at that point, just a matter of habit. But, I remember my stepdad would always tell me that, don't only stay focused on your books and sports, because he had a situation with one of his brothers that was a really, really good runner, and he was going to try out for the Olympics. And, you know, a young lady accused him of rape. And by the time everything got cleared up to where he actually didn't rape the young lady, and they found out and everything was cleared, he ended up losing everything, like all the scholarships and everything like that, because by the time everything got cleared up, it had passed that time, and I think he ended up getting injured anyway. So, you know, so my stepdad took that and was like, only focus on this. Don't worry about females. Don't worry about none of that stuff, because they have, a lot of them don't have the best intentions for you. So in the back of my mind, I associated, you know, failure or, you know, the ability to lose everything because of what a woman could do to you. And it wasn't until later, you know, when I actually came back and started hanging around my dad and my brothers and my uncles and all that kind of stuff, where I started to kind of remove that way of thinking. But that was what I had, you know, taken from that particular time of my life. And I was so shy, but I think in the back of my mind, that was my mentality. So I'm getting back to the original point. But that was my original mentality, like, okay, that could potentially happen, and everything I'm working on. I'm trying to go to the NBA, you know, I'm trying to do all these different things, and, you know, I don't want any kind of potential risks to be involved in messing that up. So I wouldn't talk to women. And eventually it just became, you know, second nature and a habit. Up until a certain point, like I said, when I started hanging around my uncles and my dad, and I said, okay, it's not all that bad. You know, these women love these particular guys, and, you know, they ain't had no problems. And, you know, just having a different collection of experiences kind of helped me to get out of that mentality. So ultimately, at a point in this particular conversation, this episode, you know, the main point that I want you guys to think about is when you are going through times of your life where you are experiencing failure after failure in relationship after relationship. Sometimes it's good to take a different perspective, even if it's a horrible perspective that gets you out of your current perspective. And I noticed that a lot of people will gravitate towards negative news, gossip, spilling the tea and all that kind of stuff. But you have to be careful with that. It should only be a temporary thing. If not, people get trapped in that, and tea and gossip and all that stuff becomes their new coping mechanism to say, well, at least I don't have that. It becomes their new drug. So you can look at the failures of others and say, well, at least I'm not failing like that. But then that keeps you in the failure holding pattern. That keeps you failing in a whole different way. And matter of fact, the way you were failing is just one way. Now you got 15 other ways of failing in a relationship, because now you're taking on different perspectives on how to fail at relationships. So you got to be kind of careful with gossip and blog sites that promote negative information about relationships, about life, about people, because we have the perplexity as humans to gravitate towards information that feeds a certain part of our life, because, you know, in our mind, what flows into our mind, our hearts, our internals, is what dictates what happens in our life going forward. So when you look back over your past relationships and past things, if you only look at the negative, well, first of all, you're in a negative space mentally, and you're gravitating towards something that feeds that particular area of who you are. So the more you focus on the negative, the more the negative appears in your life, the more the negative expands in your own personal life. So it's very important to make sure you keep stock of how much. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like desserts. It's like mental desserts. You know, if you only eat mental desserts, you will gain a lot of weight. You know what I mean? I understand, you know, sometimes, okay, I can go, you know, you can go and look at that kind of stuff, but don't make it too much of a habit, and definitely look at it from a different perspective, meaning that if you are going to look at that kind of stuff, the negative, gossipy stuff, look at it as what you need to learn to not do. But then also don't just stop at what you don't need to do or should not do. place your focus on what you should do. So now that you're going out of that space of looking at blogs and stuff like that, now what are we going to look at that actually promotes what I want? Because we know what we don't want. So we're trying to create a balance now. Actually, we're going to create more of a balance of what I want as opposed to more of what I don't want, by focusing more on the things that are progressive or progressing me towards the ideal goal that I see myself having, which is a relationship that does not fail. So if I'm looking at constantly relationships that are failing, then monkey see, monkey do, so to speak. And it pulls me towards that direction. You know how when you're driving and, you're looking at an accident off to the side, and you're looking off to your left. And next thing you know, you veering off and starting to swerve over to the left because you're so focused and your view is only, projecting towards the energy or the accident or whatever the issue is. Your attention is going there. So guess what? Your energy is flowing that way. Your body is flowing that way. Everything is moving you in that direction. So it's important to make sure you are aware of what you're focusing in on, so that way you don't steer towards the wrong direction when you're trying to go to a different destination. So that's the first thing that that I want to advise you on, and getting over past relationships, because we get so down on ourselves for things that we believe that we had no control over. And it's because the desire and expectations that we've created in our minds, or the expectations that we had at a particular time, and we still kind of have those things. And just by having those expectations and that similar mentality makes you feel a level of regret towards something that you allegedly didn't have any control over. But I want to challenge you to think that maybe you did have, or you do have, more control over things than you actually believe that you do. Like I said, whatever we decide to focus in on will now determine the direction that we go moving forward. Like I said, it's just like driving. You focus on something that's not in front of you or somewhere else. That's why they say don't text and drive, because it's not even that you swerve. It's just that you're not aware of what's going on ahead of you. It's not that you go to the left or to the right. It's just what is coming up you're not aware of. So, if you're focusing on the left or to the right, you'll begin to swerve in that direction. So it's very important that you are aware of the responsibility that you have over the direction that you are moving towards in your life. You are your soul is the car of your life. Your mind, your thoughts are the car of your life. So the way you're moving and the things that you are paying attention to moves you in that direction. A lot of people are driving in reverse because they're so focused on what has happened in the past. The things that they have experienced in the past brings a level of resentment, a level of regret, a level of unforgiveness, a level of actually a lot of hatred, a lot of women feel that their time is being wasted, and then women get with other women to validate the beliefs that they are creating based on the similar experiences. But if you really look at it, a lot of people, a lot of women specifically, are focusing on the same type of information, which is gossip, tea, whatever you want to call it nowadays. But and I'm not saying men don't either, because men, what we don't do is focus on that stuff. We focus on everything else: sports, business, work, stuff that don't really make a difference. Sports don't make a difference because it's going to be the same crap every year. It's going to be the same teams that it was last year, and they're going to be competing for some kind of trophy that they're going to have to eventually compete for next year. And they're making a killing while you just sitting at home drinking a beer and arguing with whoever it is about the score. That's not progressive. You're not doing anything for those hours every week that is progressing you towards the idea that you want to have happen in the future. So I think it's important. I think it's important, and I'm gonna give you a couple of things that you can do to get over the past. I already gave you one. Take different perspectives, but make sure you take predominantly the perspective of the direction that you want to go. Not the predominant thing that validates what you already know or already feel, because we tend to do that as humans. We go where information that benefits us, that confirms us how we should feel. And that does not progress you either. That does not move you forward in a better direction. It keeps you stagnated to only wait for the next situation that puts you in the same predicament. It's the same thing with men and the same thing with women. Women focus on, I ain't gonna say all, but most women focus on gossip, and I ain't gonna say all men focus on sports, because it ain't true. But most men predominantly focus on sports and drinking and hanging out and doing stuff that just, or chasing women or whatever. And it's the same at the end of the day. They both are in the same, you both end up in the same boat, not progressing towards anything, because you're creating a habit of doing things that don't progress you. You're creating a habit of focusing in on things that are at the moment exciting, but when you look over your life 10, 20 years later, all you did was watch games and do what everybody else is doing. And at the end of the day, people have the same results because they're doing the same thing. So, the statistics don't lie. That's why they have statistics, because the similarities in people is what creates the end result. So they're able to take an average of what the end result is going to be and say, well, this many people are going to end up in divorce. This many people are going to do this. Why? Because nobody is progressing. Everybody is focusing in on the same things. So what I ended up doing was I started learning about relationships, and I'm getting back to what I was originally about to say. I started learning more about myself and learning more about relationships in general. And I learned that I didn't want to have the same, I didn't want to be a quote unquote statistic. I didn't want to experience the same things that everybody else would experience. So I determined in my mind and in my heart that I was going to have the best relationship that I knew of, and I was going to be with the person that I'm going to be with, that I'm with currently, for the rest of my life. And that was my objective. Now, did I go out and have fun and have a blast? Oh, man, listen, you bet your bottom dollar I went out and had me a blast. I had a great time. I finagled with the best of them. But you know what? At the end of the day, I didn't want to put any, I didn't want to lead anybody in the wrong direction. I didn't want to lead women on and make them think it was going to be more than what was initially offered. Like, this is what we doing, so this is what we gonna do. I don't think it's gonna go past this, but let's enjoy the moment. Let's add to each other the benefits that you want and I want. And that was the relationship. And I think a lot of people just have these expectations without the understanding that this is what we're doing. So people end up getting hurt, and it becomes a quote unquote, it becomes another failure to add to the relationship. And honestly, I don't think there are relationship failures unless you consider them to be failures, because how you view things will begin to shape, like I said, your reality. It begins to shape your life. It begins to take on a form in your life. And that's what kind of dictates the next move or the next situation that you find yourself in. If you allow it to take root and take shape as a failure, then you will kind of place yourself under the umbrella of failures. Not saying that people who have been in a string of failed relationships didn't find somebody who had who they could be with in a relationship, in a healthy relationship. Not saying that doesn't happen, but that's the exception rather than the rule. That usually doesn't happen. And if it does happen, there might be a lot of dysfunction behind the scenes, and they are putting on for, the people that they come in contact with, and even putting on for each other, because they're not really knowing who each other is. They're only keeping up with the perception, and as long as they stay in their roles, they can have a whole separate life, but as long as they stay in the role of being a quote-unquote good husband or a quote-unquote good wife, and continue to do what they doing on the side or behind the back or not, you know what I'm saying? And they never really have a real relationship. They only have the shell of a real relationship, but the depth of it is not there. You could look at them and tell, they just kind of together, even though they may seem like they're together. So that happens. Like I said, it happens where people can get into these seemingly good relationships and it doesn't end up that way. And that's how and the way you can tell is when they get older, especially if they last long, they are literally just roommates. After a certain point, they're literally just together just to be together, or they don't want to get a divorce because it costs too much, or whatever the case may be. They end up not having the type of relationship that I wanted. So I was like, these are the things that I want, and I ain't gonna stop until I get them, but I didn't allow anything to be considered a failure. I actually said, anything that I want, even the most recent kind of, I guess, relationship before my wife, where I felt kind of distraught about, I turned that into an understanding about myself. Like I really learned, this is crazy. I really learned, because up until that time, man, I was living like I was living the life. You know what I'm saying? I had a lot of women, and I had a blast. And then I started to slow down a lot, kind of right before this previous situation. And what I learned about myself is I really am a loving guy. I really am a good man. Like I really care if I'm with somebody. If I allow myself to be with someone, I really honestly do care. But I was caring for all the, for good 92% of the women that I was with. I cared about their well-being and how they were. I really did care. I just didn't want to be more than what we were at that time, which was maybe just a sexual thing, or we was just literally like just cool, not really even sexual. But I really did care about what they thought about things, how their day went, and to share information that I had that might be beneficial to them. That's always been consistent and concurrent for a very, very long time, as long as I have come to like more of a self-awareness. And so you really don't fail unless you consider it a failure. And all the guilt and the shame and all that stuff that comes with that doesn't just lay there dormant in that relationship. It moves forward into the next relationships, and you kind of develop a habit of being a failure in relationships. So a lot of people, specifically women in this case, get to the point where they just become very callous and say, well, I don't need no man. I'm an independent woman. And, all these different kind of things that women have to make up. I'm a strong woman. I'm a strong, independent woman. And I don't need a man for nothing. And a lot of that comes from what they deem as relationship failures, or men just not being no good and all that kind of stuff. So they create, they create their buffer to protect themselves from having to actually experience and feel the pain of being hurt. Men just kind of go through numb anyway, because we are socialized to just say, okay, I'm out here in these streets. I ain't gonna be nothing. And so whatever I got to do to get this woman to do what I need her to do, I'm gonna do it. But it comes back in such a way, man, that, men, it comes back in a way for men in so many different areas, because the purpose that you were designed for, it corrodes. It starts to corrode, and at the point where you're ready to realize and come to grips with your purpose, it's really too late. You've kind of wasted the majority of that good time focusing in on what you can get from women or chasing women. And it's a really sad thing, because you have a lot of older men who have nothing to show for all the women they've been with. All they can say is, I've been with a lot of women. And I know I was heading down that direction. I can still kind of say it, but I kind of can say that I'm in my purpose too. You know what I mean? Like, I can say I'm in my purpose, even though if I would have started doing this stuff earlier, I would have been further ahead. So it does come back to men in that way. So for women who feel like, well, men don't get, nothing out of it, the worst thing that can happen to a man is to lose out on his purpose. That's the most important thing. When a man finally realizes his purpose, and not just a purpose for being a man, but his purpose for being a husband, his purpose for being a father, his purpose for being, and then that creates a failure domino. You failed at being a man, then you failed at being a husband, and you failed at being a father. So in those areas, you've lost out on actually progressing in life, because the better man you are, the better husband you'll be, and the better father you'll be. So the things that come with being better or being perceived as good or being good outweighs the things that you get just from the pleasure that you got when you were younger, because it's literally a waste of time. It's literally meaningless. But it's only by definition for women specifically that you feel as though you failed, when in reality you don't really fail until, now this is your Achilles heel, to where you believe that you have to do this, what men do, in order to feel a sense of dominance or a sense of power, to feel callous and to feel as though nothing hurts. But in reality, you may get the benefits of being a great mother and being a good woman and all that stuff, but you don't get the benefits of being a great wife or a good wife, because at the end of the day, that's another facet of life that adds to the collection or to the fullness of life. So just because you say you don't want it does not mean it's not valuable. It does not mean that it's not worthwhile having. So don't lie to yourself and say that you don't want something, when in reality you do. You just have to develop certain skills and certain awarenesses that put you in the best position to where you can experience that particular part of your life. And while you're experiencing it to the best of your abilities. And that's what I did. I said, I'm going to be the best single man that I could be. And when I get married, I'm going to be the best husband that I can be. And that's been my perspective for a very long time. And so, but I never want to take anything negative and place it within my life and say, I own this, I failed at this. I never want to say that, in the sense that when it actually involves another person, I can say that I failed at my part of the relationship, or at my part of being a man. But a lot of that is I didn't have the awareness that I have now. If I had the awareness that I had at 19 or 18, I wouldn't have treated women or this particular woman or that particular woman a certain kind of way, because I would have had more of an awareness. But I did not have that awareness. So I forgive myself. Please forgive me. I've even reached out to women around that time and asked them to forgive me. I really have. Because I know the power of forgiveness, because it's not really about me per se, but it is about me. It's about both of us. So I've reached out to them, specifically to get some sense of relief and let them know that, hey, listen, I didn't know what I know now. So now that I know what I know now, I have to move differently. I have to operate differently. I have to carry myself differently if I want different results. So the key thing to take away here is, what are you learning in the process? What have you learned about yourself? What did you learn in that quote unquote failure? What do you understand more about yourself that you didn't understand now? You can't, if you're looking at it as a failure, then you won't take the lessons that need to go with it in the proper way. I look at them like timestamps for learning and understanding who I am and who I was becoming at that time. And failure with one person doesn't necessarily constitute failure with another person. So that's why I say that. Now, if I'm playing basketball or playing cards or something, I can look at, well, I should have done this and I should have done that. But it's so different with people that every situation is unique. Every situation is different. Of course, we know the basics. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of gray areas as it relates to how we are supposed to interact with people, because we don't know what place they'll play in our lives. So I think it's very important. One of the best quotes I heard was by William Churchill. He said that success is the ability to withstand failure after failure and still maintain enthusiasm. So I think that's a very good quote, to kind of lead this thing off with, and and to think about, because success is the ultimate goal. Failure is not the ultimate goal. So that's why I say failure is, that's why I say that, you want to take the successes. You don't want to take the failures, because failures are not the goal. The goal in life is not to be a failure. The goal in life is to succeed. So if you are only focusing in on the failures, then you are creating and allowing more failures to come into your life. Whereas if you take the successes and you look at the failures, not saying that you take them, but you take the successes, you look at the failures and say, what can I do better? Not that I own them, but what can I do better in these areas that I did not succeed in? Because I want to succeed. That is the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is for me to progress and to succeed in these areas. And that, my friends, is called perfection. Don't let nobody lie to you and say that perfection is not obtainable, because perfection is absolutely obtainable in layers, in levels. You perfect one level and you move on to the next. And when you look up the word perfection, it means to complete. It means to complete certain areas. You cannot move to the second grade until you become perfected in the first grade. That means you have a passing grade. You are complete in the information that you need to obtain on that particular level. That's how you move to the next. You cannot move to the next level without perfection. The scripture says it like this: be ye perfect, even as I am perfect, meaning be matured, be complete, be fulfilled in areas as he is the creator. Now, that may sound like a lofty aim and a lofty goal, but I truly believe it. Perfection is absolutely obtainable. It's just in stages. What stage are you on now that you need to perfect? What do you need to work on now that moves you to the level to where you can move on to the next, and to the next, and to the next, and to the next? So in that way, you are becoming more perfect. And you are perfecting certain areas and perfecting certain levels, meaning you are completing, you are maturing, you are manifesting certain things in certain areas of your life that wasn't there before. And that, my friends, is perfection. So moving forward, I would suggest just taking a look at the things that you have experienced, like I said, the successes, and really reveling in those and getting the feeling of what it feels like to be a success and have a successful relationship. Because just because you have a successful, perfect relationship does not mean you don't have flaws. A VVS and a VS and all these different clarities of diamonds are perfect for you in your budget, in your range, in your price range. One ring might be perfect for you, but another ring for another person might be perfect for them. The perfect ring for one woman is not the perfect ring for another woman. So you got to define your life on your terms, what perfection means to you. What does it look like to you? Just because it's not flawless does not mean that it's not perfect. So keep that in mind as you're moving forward. You will have flaws, and that's okay, but work to, it's like you are the diamond that has flaws. And the more you put inclusions and everything into your own mind, meaning gossip or sports or mindless activities, you are creating more flaws into your diamond. But the more that you can remove by focusing in on the good things, progressing, becoming better, and, just really focusing in on becoming the best person that you can be. And that's how you become flawless, or flawlesser, I guess. I guess the term I want to use. You can become more flawless as time goes on, and you can become more perfect as time goes on for the person that you are wanting to have, or the person that you have already. You become more perfect for each other as you progress through your relationship and through your life. So I think it's very important to focus on those few things. And that's today's episode. I want you guys to check out, I have my my guide for women, 19 traits for husband material. It's called Husband Material, 19 traits of the ideal candidate. And it'll be out very soon. It is amazing. I have finished it. So if you're listening to this after, however long, who knows how long into the future this you will hear this, but it should be out by the time you hear it, if you hear it in the next year. And I'm gonna tell you, ladies, it's a game changer for you, because what it does is it puts you in a different level of awareness. It makes you more aware of the power that you have as a woman, or as a human, as a spiritual being, to attract and to repel exactly what you want. But if you do not have an idea of what you want, or it's very vague what you want, it's going to be harder to get a moving target. It's going to be harder to hit a moving target. But when you have a target, when you have an idea of what you're looking for, you know who you need to become in order to obtain the thing that you're looking for. So you become what you want to attract. You don't just attract things. You become the person who naturally attracts these characteristics and this type of person. So that's what this guide is geared to do. It's geared to help you ladies out. Men, I will have the same thing, but a man version of it, because that's probably going to be even better for me to write. I can write both, obviously, because I'm writing both. But from a man's perspective, because your job as a man, for the guys out there, is I would say more important as the leader. Not more important in the sense that a woman's is less important, but I would say is more preeminent, because if a man is not in place, the relationship will be out of place, the family will be out of place, and everything else will be out of place. Because that's kind of what we're missing now is the man. There's no men standing up and being in the right position to hold a family down and hold a family in position to progress, because ultimately we are the bridge to the next phase of life. Once the kids go over, the wife goes over, then we come at the tail end, to make sure that everything's safe. But if we're not in position, if we're not in our right state, our right mentality, then we're going to continue to have the same problems that we're having. And not to be on those sexist stuff, but realistically, if you think about it, and if you're honest with yourself, ladies, it's true. The men are off. At least the expectation of what men should be or used to be is off. Something's wrong. And I'm not saying that there are no good men out there. There's plenty of good men out there. But most don't know how to express and how to make women understand and see what they have to offer in their own unique way, because a lot of women have this idea of how a man should be, but men have progressed from your ideology of what men should be. So now it's time to express those new ideologies that men have evolved to or moved to, as women start to move towards what they believe a man should be and start taking on those characteristics. So anyway, long story short, those guides will be out very soon. I'm hoping by the beginning of the year. Definitely by February, by Valentine's Day, I would say. Definitely by then. So the website will be up very soon. Also working on blogs for that, because I got to at least put up quite a few blogs in order for it to make sense. So I was just going to do a straight website, but I don't want that. I don't want no just straight website. I want a blog site where you can come and get information. You can come and get whatever it is. This is episode 28. My goodness, we are moving and grooving. And on episode 30, we'll be taking a break. You know what I'm saying? We're going to take about a month-long break. And we're going to be coming back with some amazing guests and an amazing kind of new format where I won't be just the center of it all. But I wanted to establish a base with you guys so that when I do bring on these guests, you'll be able to see the difference. You'll be able to see why I did this because there's a lot of information out there. But you'll be able to compare it to everything that I've been teaching and talking about up until this point. You'll be able to see the difference, and you'll be able to see why I am very adamant about doing it the way that I'm doing it. I'm not just doing this for no reason, and I'm not just posting me just talking all the time for no reason. And me and Coach Christina Lynn, I got to get Coach Christina Lynn been working. I'm telling you, I've been trying to get her back on the show, but she has been working. Same thing with Coach Candace. Shout out to them. Shout out to my wife, Coach Ilulu. I love you, baby. But anyway, that's been today's episode. It's been real. It's been good. It's been real good. You guys take it easy. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Relationships and Chill. For more information on cultivating the relationship of your dreams, please follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Relationships and Chill, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at RelationshipsandchillTV. You can also visit our website at www.relationshipsandchill.com. Together, let's make relationships great again.